empaths, welcome back to another crystal reading. Pick a crystal reading. So just noticing which crystal grabs your attention. Noticing how your energy wants to flow to it. Right, and then I will tune into that crystal and see what information I can gather from it. So which one catches your eye? The one on the left is Celestite, also known as Celestine, or Celestine, or Celestite, depending on how you pronounce it. I've heard it pronounced all kinds of ways. The one in the middle is Black Tourmaline. And on the right we have Malachite. Just sending your energy to the crystal. And they make for some really great mediums, don't they? Helping us to connect in this time of social distancing. Just another moment. Okay, so for my Celestine or Celestite, Celestine, however you pronounce it. This is a cute little piece of it. However you wish to pronounce it. Let's tune into the energy here. And I have to say, even while I was doing the first frame, right, of Choose Your Crystal, I was already getting the book, The Celestine Prophecy, right, by, is it James Redfield? I believe is his name. And I think it's a fiction book, an adventure about obtaining wisdom, something like that. And I feel like it was, first of all, maybe you have a connection to that book, and that might be one of the reasons you chose this crystal. Might also be you have a book in your heart, right? I think this came up in a past reading, but so I'm interested to see how many of you chose a pile about authorship. Again, if this is the second time hearing this message, that there is a book in your heart. And I feel like there's this divine connection you have with nature, with animals, with crystals, with Mother Earth. And you're being encouraged to share that connection with others in some way. You've garnered a lot of wisdom from your experiences and from your connection, right? You can see things and see the metaphor for life in nature. There are truths in there that you're able to digest and use as storytelling wisdom or metaphor. Right? A parable around it. For the thing, what's coming in right now is there's the parable about the battle between the sun and the wind, right? And they're competing and they're saying, I bet you I can get this man. There's a man walking, right? And they say, I bet I can get this man to take his jacket off first. And the wind blows and blows and blows and tries to blow the coat off the man, right? And the man clings to it harder. And then the sun, and then the wind finally gives up. And then the sun comes out and just shines on him. And he takes his coat off. That was in a book I read as a child. And that really spoke to me. That had a really brilliant message, right? Of, because it's about control and force versus inspiration or motivation, right? Like what's in it for the other person. there's so many layers to that, and it's just the simple, right? You can place so many meanings on that. So there's something about that, in that there's information maybe you want to share or teach. And if you can master this art of storytelling or parable or examples, maybe that's something you're already developing. It will speak to your audience. It will educate them in an entertaining way. And you won't have to spell it out all the time, right? You can leave room for interpretation, and then people, and then oftentimes people will give you the credit for it, right? Even though it's their own mind that sort of filled in the gaps. It said, oh, I know what you mean. But it's actually them filling in the informational gaps. And perhaps you've had that experience with reading fiction, where it turned out to be really profound in your life and really educational, even though you were doing it for entertainment. You learned something from it. So you're being encouraged here. If it's on the topic of crystals or crystal children, right? If you resonate with that, right? Harmonizing, peacemaker, seeing how we can live with nature, among nature, a soft spot for animals, right? Wanting to harmonize the planet. Slightly different vibe than the indigo children, right? The crystal children are really here to harmonize. Oftentimes, speech is delayed for the crystal child, so maybe that was part of your experience, for whatever reason, right? I kind of had that experience where I didn't speak very often. I was called shy. I was also called an observer. I was labeled many things, but I just really, I don't know if I didn't have the energy or if I just didn't know what to say. Spoken communication was delayed for me. I also had Mercury retrograde in my chart. Maybe maybe I'm being called to share this because this is something you might resonate with. This created a huge, like a very active and imaginative world within me, right? So I have this gift of insight as opposed to always bouncing things off of other people. I'm also seeing a mountain. Maybe you've been hiking or you've been wanting to get back out into nature, just having time in nature. Maybe that's where the sun came into that story of the elements, right? That parable with the wind and the sun, those elements. Maybe you're wanting to go back out into the elements to balance your own elements. Also, a mountain sometimes symbolizes for me coming back to a lesson we visited a lot in this lifetime or in many lifetimes, and we're seeing it from a higher vantage point. So perhaps you're going through something right now that's tiresome because it's so reminiscent. It's something that you've been through many times and you felt like, well, I thought I learned this. Why am I coming back around? And you might notice you're a little more detached. You're a little less reactive. You've integrated more wisdom around this, right? And you're kind of coming back around. And I'm getting that the purpose for you coming back around to see this again is to notice that. Notice how detached you are. Notice the bird's eye view. I'm also getting eagle. Maybe eagle is a totem animal you're working with right now, right? The power, the majesticness. Maybe you are taking yourself more seriously now, right? Maybe you feel more powerful. You're in touch with your power now. And you notice how there's power in silence. Sometimes sometimes less is more. Sometimes nothing needs to be said for me to make my point. And I think that's coming back to the point about delayed speech. A lot's coming at me right now. Okay, so understanding that while you might have felt rejected, if that was your experience, right? If that was your story, you might have experienced rejection or a lot of negative attention during that time. And it might have been out of fear, right? Because people were perceiving You as being more oh okay, so okay, so a couple of stories are coming in here, and it's about the silence thing. It's about people might assume that you're more intelligent or know more the less you speak or the less you share. Also, sometimes people that are really loud and are trying to come off as competent, are trying to come off as knowledgeable, or that they have really great opinions, actually appear very insecure. And I think the point of this information coming in, because I'm getting a couple of personal examples, and I don't know if I'm intended to share that. Is that even going to be helpful? Because again, I'm trying to figure out if silence is better or if that's okay to share. So there were a couple people in my life who shared in a very limited way on social media, or didn't have social media for the longest time. And then as soon as one of them didn't post selfies or anything because she didn't have a smartphone. And then as soon as she got a smartphone, I thought and I assumed, oh, she's not doing that because she thinks so highly of herself. She doesn't need to use her looks. And I really respected that. I didn't realize it was because she didn't have a camera on her phone. She had a flip phone, so she wasn't capable of taking a selfie. And as soon as she got a smartphone, it was selfies galore. And some of them weren't great because she was new to it, right? But she was still sharing them. And it made me realize all these assumptions I made just because she wasn't sharing so much, right? And then another person, an older male in my life who didn't have social media for the longest time, finally got Facebook, right? He was on Facebook and he started sharing posts and his opinions and even selfies. And I was like, wow, okay. It started making me think how I might be perceived about what I'm sharing, and made me want to censor myself a little bit more, because you would look and I would notice spelling errors and grammatical errors in the way he was writing. And I always looked up to this person as being so intelligent, right? And some of the opinions he was sharing, I was like, what? And then the selfie thing really, really brought it on home. I was like, okay. So I feel like those examples are coming in because sometimes if we want to be impactful, we think we have to be loud or be in front of everyone's eyes all the time. And I think that's par for the course during this time, particularly for people that have trouble being internal, having insight. So I want to acknowledge you because I'm getting that you're the opposite. That you have this lively internal life, great imagination that leads you to wisdom, right? As you draw conclusions, you have a very creative mind where you can see connections in things that maybe others don't recognize. Maybe others have given you looks before of like, what are you talking about? Like, because they think you're so far out there, or they don't see the connections. But it's because your brain works so creatively, and it works much in silence, right? You don't need to bounce ideas off of people. You have this gift of insight. And when you're out in nature, you're collecting clues and synchronicities. They're all around you in the form of animals, in the form of, right? I was, before we were self-quarantining and social distancing and everything, I was spending time with my aunt, and we saw a little bunny, and I was like, oh, that means fertility for me. Like it's a fertile time for something. And like we just find meaning in things, right? And she was like, oh, well, I just got a new puppy. I'm buying my new puppy this week. And I was like, oh, that might be it. So just seeing like the symbols everywhere in nature, right? Particularly animals. Again, eagles coming in, bird's eye view, like it can also be like this, beyond having more self-respect and understanding your impact, right? And loving those aspects of yourself where you used to think they made you weird or they made you insecure, seeing how, actually it's probably wise to think before I speak, right? And to filter myself a little bit. And even stay quiet sometimes. That can actually be more powerful. And that's interesting because sometimes because the author thing keeps coming around too, sometimes when we're designated to birth a book, right? Or to have a creative idea come through in written language, we have more of a tendency towards introversion, introspection, right? As things work themselves out in our mind and we write them out. Right? Just like some people, just like music is a language, sometimes, like I studied written music. So I'm used to going by exactly what's written, like classically, right? Exactly what's written in the time signature and not straying from that too much, which is great because now I can read music and it's a language for me. I'm very fluent, but I'm not as great at learning by ear, right? Someone singing it for me and I learn that way. I'm not as good at that. I'm also not as good at improvising because I'm used to, that's my format. And I'm not sure why that came in. It's kind of but it's comparing the fact that perhaps you're more connected to writing than oratory work, right? That the spoken word that you're strongest in writing, perhaps, is the point there. You're more fluent in it, maybe. Or you just have the skill of grammar. And even if you don't, because that's not even necessary to write a book anymore, right? You can just speak it into your phone. So I mean, that's not really even that important. If this book wants to be birthed through you and this is an idea you have, this is just a confirmation of that. And there's a theme here of connection to nature, connection to Mother Earth, the elements, crystals, right? Maybe there's this book about crystals and it could be really colorful and creative and painting beautiful pictures with words, or even a beautiful, colorful book for children, right? There's this, the archetype of nature child is coming up. So perhaps this is how you were as a child, very connected to nature and animals. And you seem to be able to communicate telepathically, right? There was this understanding between you and animals. And even now, right? Maybe you've learned to adapt to make it in this world, right? And to be more socially accepted, but you still have that aspect that's really connected and one, has this telepathic connection with animals, or this understanding of nature, and this ability to, this visionary part of you that's able to see it live out and then have the metaphor, create a metaphor of rich meaning for yourself that gives you wisdom in life. And perhaps that's displayed as people come to you, right? Come to you to seek out your wisdom, or maybe you're called wise consistently, and maybe that's how you see yourself. Maybe you're a wise one, right? Full of sage wisdom, ability to collect information and data and form opinions and ideas around that, and just very comfortable with that flowing nature of the uncertain. And that's a huge gift, because most people can't fly with that, right? Can't soar with that. But it's a gift you have of not needing to come to a conclusion right away. You're willing to see it live out in front of you, play out, and allow your ideas and your opinions to evolve and change as you collect more data. And maybe you're process oriented in that way, and that's something you're going to share in this amazing book or whatever it is you're creating right now. The main takeaway is you're a very wise person, and you've come through a lot, right? You're coming around the mountain to a familiar sight, but you're seeing it from a higher vantage point. So there's less reactivity, and you're sort of just assessing how far you've come. So I hope that resonated. Check out the other crystal readings to see if your energy spilled over. Let me know if that made sense for you, what you're going through right now. And thanks for liking so I know you're watching, and subscribing to the channel. That's really valued here. All right, I'll see you in the next reading. Bye, empath. Hi there, Black Tourmaline people. This really pretty little cluster here, Black Tourmaline. Okay, so if this was your stone, let's tune in. So perhaps there was a recent breakup or distancing from somebody that you care about. Someone you thought maybe could be a potential romantic partner. And it's a really challenging time to be going through it because of the social distancing, and you're just in need of support, someone to listen, someone to care, right? So there's this sense of, maybe this is something you're telling yourself in your head, I don't have anybody right now, or nobody understands, or you're feeling guilt around wanting, right, partnership or a romantic relationship currently, and you're feeling like, because of what we're going through right now, if you're watching during the great self-quarantine of 2020, you're feeling that that's not something that you can really give attention to in the appropriate way. And maybe that's creating some internal suffering. So perhaps you're seeking short-term pleasures like food, right, to satiate this feeling, or not to satiate it, but to cover up the dissatisfaction of life, right? So maybe you're going to short-term relief, and it's difficult to be present with this because you feel like maybe there's a sense that you need support to really be present with this, and it's not, and you're being bombarded with emotions right now. Maybe you are an emotional sensitive or an emotional empath, and that's something that you're being bombarded with right now and maybe a little overwhelmed, right? And maybe that's why you were drawn to a protective stone, right? Something that would kind of give you a force field of defense against those psychic intrusions, energetic invasions, as you're learning these boundaries for yourself. It's a difficult time for everybody though, right? With that, the emotional climate right now is challenging, and maybe you're not quarantining with someone that you really care about, and you're missing them. And like I said, maybe this time or something in the relationship itself created distance. emotionally, right? Not just physically, as we're called to do right now. And maybe you have this sense that this is the person. This is your person. You're being encouraged right now. I'm getting the animal totem of a fox. You're encouraged right now to be sly as a fox. Now, maybe this is also about your looks, right? Because fox can symbolize a very attractive person as well. So maybe you're seen by this person as very attractive. And also maybe you know that about yourself and you use it to your advantage. But it's also about being sly, thinking long-term game here, right? Long-term in that perhaps, what it came in as food was the or any kind of other indulgence was covering up this emotional turmoil inside or longing. But perhaps also that's what this relationship was doing as well, right? And maybe this person is suitable for you, but you're using it in a way you might use a substance, right? So if you got a high from this person, from talking to this person, chances are you're not seeing the real them, right? That there was a chemical high from connecting with this person. And so you're not really seeing them in a realistic way. Distance will make that even harder, right? At first. And if you're a woman watching this, or a feminine energy, right? Know that it's hardest at first for you, right? That the initial time after a separation with somebody or a breakup is the hardest, right? Especially if it was a chemical high with this person, right? If it was the romance period coming down from, or even if it was long term, right? That can be hard too as we detach, as we don't want to detach, right? If we feel like this was the right person, we actually want to come at them harder. And it's so counterintuitive to pull back. You're being encouraged to pull back here, to start thinking about your long-term goals. As far as relationship, career, what your life looks like, where you're going to live, start thinking long-term and making decisions based on long-term goals, right? Because the inner hedonist, right? We all have it. The inner hedonist might be activated right now and thinking, well, I have all the time in the world. I can't be pining away here, so I'm going to indulge in whatever I see in front of me, right? I'll binge watch something. Or maybe you indulge in fantasizing about this person or thinking about reaching out to them, and maybe you are reaching out to them, but you're being encouraged to take a step back, right? Especially if this wasn't your idea, right? If the separation wasn't your idea, or if your hand was forced and you had to create space and distance, really, really go there. Really give yourself that space and start thinking about your long term, right? You don't have to take action right now, but as far as your goals, right? But just start planning for the long term. What does the perfect relationship look like to you? What is it you need relationship? If this wasn't a perfect match or the scenario wasn't perfect, chances are that's something you were meant to learn and take away from it, right? What is it I seek long term? What's a great match for me? What is it I bring to the table? And who is it I want to attract? What kind of person am I most attracted to? What might they be looking for? Okay, and do I measure up? Or is there room for me to grow into that person? And what should I take a look at now, right? You're being encouraged to create something, even if it's just the image of it for now, the visualization work that your future self will thank you for, right? Consider that right now. And if you need support, widen your view, expand your vision here, right? If you're thinking long term, also think width here and understand that maybe your social circle started closing because you put all your attention into this one person because they were giving you a high. let that go for now and start paying attention and connecting to all the people that are in your life now, currently, and seek support from them. Or reach out, right? I do session work, I do personal reading work. If you need support, support is available. But take stock in who is in your life, who is committed, who does give you love, and who does show up for you, right? This might just need breathing room right now. And you might just be, sometimes separation has to happen so that some space can be created between people as each person comes back to who they really are, why they're on the planet, right? Their purpose, and considering if this relationship is going to realistically meet their goals, right, for a relationship, or if the values and vision for your lives individually meet and are going in the same direction. So if that wasn't kind of worked out, just take care of your end of that for now and get really clear about that. Because there might be this tendency to just go for things because they feel good, right? I mean, it's human nature. Everyone does that. So know that this space and time is a gift for you to get really clear on this. It actually will make you more attractive too. Not just like a fox, right? But that confidence in yourself and that self-knowledge and being really clear with what you want is a very attractive quality. So really get in touch with that and in tune with that right now. While we have the time and space to do it, most likely, right? You might even want to get a journal about that and journal about it, write it down, map it out for yourself. Like, what is the perfect scenario? You might even want to get out your old magazines and create a vision board around it. Whatever it is. And I'm also getting that this is also a time for you to really grow an understanding of how resilient you really are and your talent in navigating difficult times, right? Your talent in evolving with the change, right? You might be a person who is water dominant, right? Who has a lot of water in your chart, right? Or your style is just very watery. Water, I've talked about this before, but people that work with the element of water as dominant deal with emotions, right? Emotional person can get attached in relationship, idealize, romanticize, maybe value connection in relationship over all other things, and support, emotional support for you and for others. So maybe that's the gift you bring as well, right? Maybe you give the gift of understanding. You bring this strength of being able to flow with the times. And people lean on you because of that. They're like, I need some of that. Because right now I feel so anxious and I feel like I can't go with the flow too much. And I also feel like I don't know what's going to happen and everything, right? I feel like the earth around me is crumbling and I didn't plan for this. I didn't prepare for this. And maybe you have this ability to not get too invested or settled, and you're able to kind of flow here and understand what's required internally and emotionally to have resilience in times of change. And that's what we're going through right now, right? And so maybe the fox is this totem animal for you that can make these good decisions on the spot here. And maybe that's being summoned right now during this time where there's pressure. It feels like there's pressure to do something, say something, have an opinion about something. Maybe you're feeling pressure to do that. And sometimes that pressure allows us to have the most decisive energy. So you're being encouraged to, instead of think what will appease my feelings and make me feel good right now, to have to use your ability and your strength to have impulse control and to think long term, because that incredible gift you have will give you that ability too, right? That amazing imagination and creative brain is what allows you to romanticize somebody and paint this amazing image of them. But it can also paint an amazing future for yourself, right? This vision of an incredible future for yourself. And when you start moving towards your future, right, and you stop giving all that psychic energy to somebody, right, because you're filling in the void so they don't have room to come to you, turn away from them because they're taking all your energy. They're actually siphoning it. In fact, that might have been their intent. So your power is in moving towards your future. So instead of facing this person and staying stagnant and investing all of your emotional energy, which is so valuable, into this person, just turn to your future and start investing there. Long-term goals. What does a relationship look like for me that's ideal? What supports me, right? And my purpose. And who am I the right match for? And just tune into that. Do a meditation around it. Who's my ideal partner? I actually did one of the reverse readings is about that topic. So if called You're the Psychic. So if you want to tune into those videos and really tune into your ability to gain insight from the crystal representative of that aspect of your life, tune into those. It'll help you enhance that gift that you already have. Face your future. And then what that does is it does create a void. So someone is able to move forward with you, right? That's when you're most attractive, when you're walking away. So you got to walk away for someone to miss you. So face your future, start moving towards it, and see who's able to hang and who's able to walk with you on that path. You're being encouraged to think long term here. Sly like a fox, right? You're already foxy. You're already very attractive. Start thinking like a fox too. All right. I hope that resonated. Look into the other readings to see if they resonate as well. Your energy might have spilled into them. And thanks for liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That's really valuable to me. Let me know if this resonated in the comments. I really appreciate your feedback. And I will see you in the next reading. Bye, empath. Hi there, my Malachite people. So isn't this a beautiful little piece of malachite? So let's just tune into the malachite here. So I'm getting that right now your faith is being tested, maybe pretty hardcore. You're being encouraged to tap into your inner high priestess energy, right? The part of you that kind of works your magic alone, gets into your mystical, esoteric knowledge and starts creating some inner alchemy here for manifestation in the outer world, and strengthening your faith and seeing how details are being revealed to you in the right time, in the right order, in the right sequence, right? That you're tuned in, you're tapped into something higher and greater than you. And to not give in to fear, right? Perhaps people are coming at you with their own fears and it's tempting you to come out of faith. And part of your purpose is to inspire through modeling, your modeling of your faith in divine order, higher power, your manifestation ability, whatever it is, right? Co-creation. Basically, getting your need for certainty met by seeing that you've come through before and trusting that you can do it again and again and again. And knowing that you're tapped in and tuned in to a frequency maybe not many people are capable of observing, witnessing, or ascending to, right? Perhaps this time of social distancing is helpful and yet challenging at the same time, right? As you do your best work alone, right? The hermit archetype is coming up, right? As well as the high priestess. The hermit works alone on the mystical quest, right? Gains knowledge through introspection, through meditation, through oneness and connection to a higher source. Is introverted, right? Needs time and space alone. We got an abundance of that if you're not quarantined with many people, right? If you're self-quarantining, know that this time may be best used as you refine these abilities, these skills, right? In connection to your purpose. Part of your purpose is to help other people by modeling this. And maybe that's what makes you a great leader, right? Even though maybe you don't see yourself that way, or at least not all the time, you're more in tune with what's best for others because you don't need them, right? Because you lean more towards introversion. You're more willing to risk isolation, right? Because, hello, that's your nature in part, right? And not that not that any of us can survive all by ourselves, but because you're more comfortable alone, you have less invested in appeasing and pleasing. So maybe you're the voice of honesty in other people's lives, and you're able to say things in a way that's not very charged. And maybe that does bring on resentments and exasperation sometimes, as people just don't get it. But there's also this capacity to have compassion, right? Have compassion for others, particularly because you've gone through a lot of pain, right? You've gone through a lot of heartbreak, heartache. And maybe you're also taking time away from a partner, a person of interest, a romantic interest, or a long-term partner during this time to really connect more fully to your purpose. Maybe you don't really fully see it completely revealed to you yet. And just having faith, that's part of what this time of faith is having faith that it's revealing itself to you as you take one step at a time. That it won't be fully revealed to you all at once. And that's part of what having faith is about too, right? Taking that next step. Okay, the next step's revealed. I'll take that. There is something here that you're wondering if the dream's too big, or if this vision is realistic or whatever it is, you're being encouraged that it's not only realistic, it's within reach. Like, just keep going, just keep taking the next step that you're encouraged to take. And that you're very in tune, so it's revealing itself to you. Whatever this is, piece by piece, step by step, in sequence. So it might not make logical sense, right? But because you have that mystical mind and that ability to trust, right, in divine order, divine timing, I trust that this is the sequence, even though it doesn't make sense to my linear brain. I will have faith and I will take the next step. And oftentimes these ideas and the vision comes to you when you're alone, when you're by yourself. So proper use of this time as we self-isolate, if you're watching this during the social distancing of 2020, that's in part what this time is for you personally. Anything else? So there is this powerful ability to transmute energy. So you might be feeling like you're bombarded right now with energies, right? Much like, you know, you hear mediums talk about how spirits just know they can communicate with them. So the spirits come to them and they talk to them. It's like that for energies for you, emotions, visions, right? They come to you. They might not all be meant to be birthed by you, but because you're able to tune in and observe, maybe you're meant to speak that inspiration to somebody else, right? Who's meant to actually birth the idea. Or just do some kind of manifestation work around the idea and to kind of build it up, give it weight, and send it off to whoever is willing to receive it and actually create it in the physical world, right? Maybe in that sense, earth energy isn't abundant for you, right? Maybe you are more of a visionary person or an emotional person. So you're able to manifest, but it doesn't always birth through you. Maybe you give the vision to somebody else, or you create a team to take over the idea, and that's how it eventually fleshes out. But just know that if that's meant to happen, you'll be guided on that too. That you're really in tune. Very active third eye, which I probably wouldn't pair with Malachite, but I know Malachite is a beautiful gift for an emotional empath, right? So maybe that is part of what you're transmuting here. You're getting some of the anxious energy or the dark, heavy stuff, and Malachite can help transmute it, release emotional traumas, right? From your system. So maybe in part, you're the healer of the family, you're the mystic of the family here to transmute end ancestral patterning, right? And in that sense, sometimes that person, that designated healer of the family, feels alone, feels misunderstood, feels like the black sheep. So by default, they become a hermit, right? Know that there are people out there that understand, that have a similar story. In internal family systems work, we might call them exiles, right? People that really identify with their exile aspects, right? Because we have those parts internally, but you are also very self-present. And by self, in the internal family systems model of healing, self with a capital S is that higher self, that higher aspect of self, right? That's in tune with source, with the unlimited, with compassion and patience and playfulness and, right, that higher aspect, there's also a part that probably feels a lack of belonging. And you're being encouraged to send some of that light and healing energy to that part of you, right? It's probably a child part. It can be, it tends to be, particularly if you're carrying trauma. And right now on my screensaver, I'm filming this at night. 11:11 is showing, and it showed itself to me. I was paying attention, so 11:11 might be popping up a lot. That might be a sign or a synchronicity that comes in for you about manifestation, and a synchronicity and a sign that you're a divine channel, right? That your purpose is to bring those higher frequencies down, be in tune and in touch with a higher purpose, and to inspire others with that information, with that path, and to know that there are other people who relate and understand, but also to have that understanding and compassion for yourself, that you can do that, right? When that part is activated and you're maybe identifying with that part, like we call that blending, when you're blended with that part and you consider yourself that exile, right? It happens internally with the parts, but it's also within the family structure too, right? Some people identify as the exile of the family or have been designated that. They don't fit in. They're not like everybody else. Oftentimes they understand, they see the truth of what's happening, and they don't put up with the BS, and they suffer a lot with that manipulation and delusion. So when other people are hypnotized into the trauma and the wounding patterning of the family, the designated healer of the family, it's not named, it's this unconscious thing, right, that happens. You're just born with that vision and ability to heal and understand and be present with reality. They feel exiled. They don't feel like they belong. They're deemed too sensitive, too, or even called crazy sometimes, right? Because they can't take it. Sometimes that's emotional too, when other members of the family aren't willing to feel their own emotions. So they unconsciously push them out and ignore them. The exile feels all of them. So maybe in part that's what's happening here, and that's why you need to isolate too. Know that that's okay if it's done in self-care. But also, there are people that understand. There are people that also have this experience. And maybe me just saying that right now, these words are much like a healing salve, right? That it's medicine to know, to hear your story spoken, right? And maybe that's something that you're here to give to, right? As you channel these frequencies, you have this gift to inspire others. And it does feel heavy sometimes, right? Particularly in times like this, when you're called to transmute so much energy. You're welcome to give some back, right? If it didn't originate with you, you can always give it back or send it to source to be recycled. Anything else? Also, meant to say partnership is possible for you too. So if that's something that has evaded you in life because you were working on all this trauma, sometimes that is an aspect of the spiritual path, right? Or the healing path. We don't come into partnership until later. And if you're judging yourself for that, or comparing your life story with others, know that people that have this healing path often find that they work in partnership after they're already on their purpose, right? So know that even that is in perfect sequence. Even that is in perfect divine timing. And you're being encouraged to know that your path, it's probably going to look a lot different than other people's. So part of self-care is not comparing yourself to other people's journeys either. And that don't count yourself out for partnership, right? Just because it's been a challenging thing in your life up until now. If that's the truth for you, if that's your truth, know that oftentimes for divine partnerships, right? If you have a divine purpose here, a spiritual purpose, a lot of people have found that their partner does a lot of work in separation from them to get on a similar path, and then they work together in purpose, on their spiritual paths together side by side, but focus is purpose. So purpose comes first, right? There might be this temptation to throw yourself into partnership, much like you merge with energies and frequencies, that there might be this longing to merge with another person. And that's probably led to a lot of pain because it's too heavy. But know that the 1111 is also a symbol of two people on spiritual paths, right? With space in between them, right? They're not merged together and that's the sole purpose for their lives. They're both moving forward together with purpose, in purpose, on purpose. And that will be the right partner for you, right? You'll have the same values, you have similar purpose, right? If this reading is speaking to you, and if you feel like this is your path, this mystical healing, releasing the trauma, right? If there's a spiritual theme in your life, that might be the truth for you. So, take stellar care of yourself by not comparing, because it's not going to look like anyone else's experience. You might want to look into twin flame experiences. I'm not on a twin flame journey, so I can't speak from experience, but there are many people who will talk about this. So maybe you resonate with the twin flame idea as well. I personally don't believe I've incarnated with my twin flame. And I hear people saying that term is going to go out of style at some point, but maybe you do resonate with that as of now, right? And you're in this separation currently as you really refine your purpose and get on path. So know that that's in divine order too, and it's all working out in order, in the proper sequence, right? And the next step will be revealed, and you trust, have faith, and take that one, and then the next one will be revealed. All right. I hope that was helpful. I hope that resonated. Please do comment and let me know. Sometimes it feels like I'm just saying so much, that so much info is coming through, and I feel like it can't possibly make sense. All this info coming through. So I hope that made sense, and that it spoke to you. Let me know in the comments. Also, watch other readings. Maybe your energy spilled into other crystals as well. Maybe they're for you too. So, thank you for liking the video. So I know you want me to continue this series, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate that. That's really valuable to me. And if you are seeking personal sessions or readings, that'll be in the description of this video. I will see you in the next reading. Bye, empath.